Hello and welcome to this series of instructional videos on AECOsim Building Designer V8i. In this session it's all about visualization and what we see. So let's get going, come across to our task-based interface, and we need to come down to the visualization tab. Click on that, and the first thing we need to do is place a camera. We're going to come down to our third row, first icon, set up cameras, and click on that icon. The first thing we probably need to do is select a camera height. We're going to select 6 foot. And the target height is going to be 25 foot. And with that, we're going to click in this isometric view to start with. And then we're going to come across here to our top view, place it here, and then as you can see straight away, that cone comes out about how we're going to be looking at our structure. So when you feel at the right place, click once more and look at your isometric. Your isometric immediately changes to reflect the new camera position. And we can go even further than this, because if we come back to our task-based interface, third row down, second icon, we have something called define the camera. And literally in the define camera setup dialog box, we can now manipulate our camera in infinite number of ways. But to give ourselves a better setup for how we want to carry forward, look at our projection here. It's 3-point. Click on this jump box and change this to 2-point, because by doing this, our verticals will actually become true verticals, and that will help us when we start composing our setup. As soon as we do that, camera angle and view changes, but we can go further. We can take a different route, and we can come into our top view here, and you can see that we have the ability, just by grabbing on the handles, to narrow the field of view, and you can immediately see the changes in our isometric as we do such a thing. Not only can we do that, but we can actually change the position of where the camera is situated to. So if we were to come into our top view again and to modify the camera eye and just simply move it, you can see straight away that we are changing the perspective of the camera and where its position is looking. The last way you can manipulate your camera is by utilizing the 3 rings that go around it. If you pass your cursor over them, you'll get a quick insight into what they mean. This would be the roll angle. We can come to any of these ones here, like the green, and you can see that we have the orientation angle, and we can just click on those and move it around as well. Now, once we've got our shot set up, because it is the shot composition, we may actually want to save this for later use as our model evolves. To do that, we're going to come up to a primary taskbar here to this icon called Saved Views. And if I just click on this temporary jump box here, you'll get a very quick idea of what we're looking at, because along the top we have some icons. Probably the most important or immediate one of those is the Create Saved View. And if we look down below that, we see a list of some of the saved views that we've already created. And if we just double click on them and then click once in our view, you'll see it takes us straight to that particular saved view. In this case, a bird's eye view from the corner. And if we come down here, we can come from the view from the corner. Click once more in the view. Building Designer quickly refreshes our model from that particular stance. But the one we may want to be looking at is if we click on the jump box, we come down to from street level. And this is the view from the average pedestrian as they're walking down the sidewalk, the pavement, as they're looking onto the structure itself. And this is the real one that we want to be looking at. You can see here in Building Designer, we're working simply with our design model, and we already have a large amount of render images attached automatically to our model. We don't have to export to another package and attach render images to it. They're already supplied in our dataset in the background running for us. Which render images are they? Well, let's have a look. Let's pass our cursor over any of these, and a tooltip pops out with a great deal of information, but right down at the bottom it says render wall comp underbar brick. Now we want to change this to a different style, to a different material, and we can do that so very easily. Let's come across to our task-based interface here, down to our 6th row down, and the 4th icon in, query material. The query material dialog box opens for us, and all we simply have to do is come across one of our surfaces and select it, and you can see now that the properties have changed. You can see that we have the material wall comp underbar brick selected. You can see the sphere here. All I have to do to edit this is simply right click and select edit material. Our material editor basic mode opens up for us, and we have a huge variety of settings that we can dynamically impose and change it. You can see that we have the ability to change it from a pattern to a solid, from bright to dark. We can go from dull to shiny, also add reflection, increase the metallic nature of a substance, of a material, as well as come down to look at the translucency and the opaqueness, as well as the shaded and the bumpy. And we're going to be coming to a couple of these key areas. We're going to change our pattern, and to do that we're going to implement a different type of brickwork. To do that, we're going to come across to the solid pattern area here and just click on this blue and white cube here. As we do that, our pattern dialog box opens up for us. The way we come to change our pattern is simply come down to our image field here, come along and right to the right hand side on the magnifying glass called Open Image File. Our image file library opens for us. There's quite a swath of patterns in here, anything from timber, concrete, brick, and everything in between, all those standard building materials. And you can see here that we have brick 24 highlighted. We're going to change it to a more coarser brick. We're going to choose brick 25. We select brick 25, our dialog box closes for us, and we come back to our pattern. You can see it's automatically updating in the model itself as I speak. Now the great thing here is that we may want to keep ourselves inside a specific requirement. So to do that, for instance, I want to have this, the size of this to be rendered as 2 courses with its perps and its beds of compo. To do that, I'll need to change the X and Y size to 0.667 and also have the repeat radio button here checked, either side of those. And down at the bottom here have size, because 0.667 equates to 8 inches. And now I come back to my material editor. We've added the brickwork, but there's something just a little bit missing. And we're going to click on the same cube that's on the right hand side. What this does now, it opens up a bump map dialog box, and again we go to the same place, again the image, brick 24B here, click on the magnifying glass, and our bump map library opens up for us. A bump map is essentially a grayscale to black image of the same material, and what that does, it allows light to be scattered across it and reveal more granularity, more detail, more emotion to the actual material. So we're going to come down here and select exactly the same material as we had when in our main render, brick 25B. Again, we're going to use the same values of 0.667. We're going to repeat those radio buttons there, make sure they're checked, make sure the size is checked, and 8 inches placed in there. With that, close that dialog box too. Make sure in your shady to bumpy slider bar that the slider bar is all the way across the right hand side to give the maximum bump image that you can have. Now with these changes, if you look back here in our list, you'll notice that we have a different icon from those listed below it. This means that we've made changes to this particular render and they stay with our local machine here. To give our rest of our project team the ability to access this new render style, all we have to do to upload that, to synchronize that with our servers, is simply right click on it, come down to local material and copy the parameters to the library. Once we do that, we get a check mark, and everyone else in our project team now has access to be able to utilize and exploit this new render combination. If you want to delve further and deeper into the settings ability of our material editor, you can come to the settings pull down here and choose advanced mode instead. And this opens up a whole Pandora's box, and we can close down our material editor dialog box. So let's go forward now. We've set up various qualities and parameters of our render. We set up the camera, we set up the materials, and now we're going to go forth now and actually go forward and render our image. To do that, we're going to come back into our TileSpace interface, first icon, first row, render. The Luxology dialog box opens up, and you can see along the top we have a setup of draft, which means fast. We have an untitled light setup, and we don't have any environment actually imprinted onto our render. Let's come across first to our top row of icons here to the penultimate one. This is where you choose which view of your building design's 8 independently driven views you want to have rendered. In this case, we're going to have view 1, or our active views you can see here. After that, let's have a look at our Luxology render settings, and you can see that Luxology comes with a number of presets for you to take advantage of. We're going to be using the draft one, and that really gives us the essence of speed. And with that, we're now going to come across the first icon, Begin Luxology Render. Holy smoke, that's really good. And to think we're only on the draft level yet with no lighting or no environment. And that's what we're going to do next. Let's come across to our task-based interface. Second row down, first icon in, Light Manager. The Light Manager dialog box opens. And what we want to do is select the solar option here, and then coming across the right-hand side here, and then clicking on the solar position. Our actual lighting and our rendering is going to be set by the latitude and longitude of our file that we got when we made our 3D terrain model earlier in this series. But you can see here, we can choose the date, we can choose the time, we could even choose the GMT offset if we want, and include daylight savings time. We can choose lat longs if we want, and actually fine tune our true north direction. Currently, we're in August. We're going to take it further towards Christmas and choose the winter solstice, 21st of December, 2012. Let's not forget, we're going to go for that dawn shot. So we're going to move our slider down here, and we're going to go for a more precise time. So we can click on here and we can adjust this. So 8:30 it is, and we're going to click on our details tab here. Two parameters we want to take care of here is down here the air quality. If you click on that jump box, you can see we have a number of air quality types, and this dictates just the color of the sky on the finished rendering. We're going to choose perfectly clean for that crisp render, that early morning render. And above this is another jump box for shadows, and we're going to choose sharp. And with that, we're going to close down Light Manager. Back in our Luxology dialog box, under our light setup, we're going to choose Winter Sun. Under Environments, we're going to choose Physical Sky. And with those two simply set, we're now going to click and continue and begin a new render. So our render finishes, and it was starting to get that mystique about it. The quality is really coming through, but we haven't finished yet. Let's come back to our Light Manager in our task-based interface. And again, we're in our winter sun configuration. We're going to click on our solar light name, and we're going to come to the solar position tab again. And this time we're going to go a little bit further up in the day because we're going to choose 11:15. We're going to close our Light Manager. Under environment settings in our Luxology dialog, we're going to use gradient sky for color, and then we're going to click on render. So our render finishes, and you can see by the use of different environments and the different lighting effects, we've got better control, let's say, and you can see that in the reflection of the glazing. Let's come down to our solar, and this time come to our solar position, and let's take it to almost dusk. We're going to take it just before dusk itself. So we set to 4:15. Now, under intensity here, probably just double click in this field here and just enter in 20% and hit our tab. What that does, it reduces the solar light. In other words, from the sun, it reduces it down to just 20% because it's near sunset. We're going to start lighting up some lights, and it's a fabulous way just to illustrate this. We're going to close down our Light Manager. We're going to come up to environmental settings here, and we're going to use the physical sky. And with that setting, what we're going to do now is begin our render. So our render finishes. You can see the golden glows in the background there, the sunset starting to form. You can see the shadows and many different hues and blends of those going across this elevation. But more importantly, you can see the sconces on this side, the darker side, the right-hand side of the image, starting to light up and make that difference. And again, it's in a draft format. But we haven't finished yet, because along the bottom row here, we have a number of tools here that can help you dynamically edit your image. This one here is edit the image settings, and if we take this gamma and reduce it down to about 109, you can now see really how the lights are really coming to life, giving it a whole new life. And again, it's just in draft format at this time. There's a history running in the background with Luxology, and just by clicking on these arrows, you'll be able to cycle through the various images that you've created for a project based off where they're sitting in their project history folder. And at any time, you can come into the edit image settings and adjust any of the settings that you want. Now, this can be a number of different settings and a number of different renderings, including, say, something like an occlusion rendering here that gives just another dimension to your whole model. You can even take one of your section cuts through your model and then bring it into Luxology and render it from there, bringing in the lighting, in this case the HVAC ducting and the furniture. The whole layout is here, and you can just keep going back through your history and then sending these out however you wish. So this has been rendering with Luxology, materials, looking at lighting in AECOsim Building Designer V8i. Thank you so much.